This is Stonkington. I wanted to create a video. I've made a few where I show how I use Blackbox, how it's been helping with my trading. I also wanted to break down how to use the watch list. Been tweaking things a bit. Nothing I put in this video is meant to be a buy or sell recommendation of any sort. This is just me pointing out some observations from using Blackbox. I've got some questions about how I pick my levels and how to use the list, so I wanted to cover that, as well as a potential setup I saw on Microsoft. Again, not a buy or sell recommendation, but I'll jump into it. So I'll jump back to this to show how I've been using Blackbox to find some setups, but I wanted to kind of show how you can use my watch list. I put this out for free on Twitter and then on the Blackbox Discord as well. So here I had these levels out, put this together September 21st, and I wanted to focus on Tesla. So this is a very busy chart, but I like to make my, what I'd be looking to take Tesla long in green, and the red line is going to be where I'd be looking to take Tesla short. But the reason I have all these lines is so that when we open, if we're not in the same spot, I'm not scrambling around to pick what I would use for triggers. I already have an idea of support and resistance the night before. And so I have been making small adjustments if we need it. Wake up and get on the Roadhouse Last Call podcast starting at 5:50 in the morning for me in California. So I adjusted it. These levels were already on the chart that I put out the night before. I'm looking at this 303.35 Darkpool I mentioned here when I make the update. So this is what the chart would look like, way simplified. So the night before, I'm making the list, and I put this out where I'd be using this green line as a call trigger because I'm looking at support and resistance. I already had this Darkpool there on the chart. I always put those in gold as a good visual reminder. And then, so this chart setup reflects the night before. Wake up, do the adjustment. So we're getting set up to open like this. Again, the podcast starts right around here. So I say, okay, I'm going to go long if we break above this, and this I'll just change to a red line, which, I put that out 20 minutes before the open, and then boom, Tesla's already below. So with the watch list, the goal is for you to be able to take your own trades. I'm reading the flow live in the Roadhouse. I'm watching a few different tickers, and especially at the open, these contract prices are just going insane. But the goal is for you to use these levels as you're watching. So again, put out the update, say you're just watching this on your own, and we let this play out. Right here, this is the open. And this candle, the fact that it could not break this level, that we already had that one marked on the chart, that signals bear. And boom, we just break right down through it. And Tesla, had a lot of momentum to the downside on Thursday. But, these contract prices are flying at that point. But this would have been, the mindset of this candle right here going up and couldn't break this key level that was just, pre-market support. Mentioned this in the Roadhouse, calling these levels. So this is how you could have used that list for a nice trade to the downside on Tesla. It's just, this is a 3-minute chart, so we don't even have a 15-minute orb. So it's just, a bit riskier taking these trades at the open. But this would be an example of how you would have used, what I put out on my Twitter, those levels to scalp. I'm a scalper, so everything I plan out is a short-term trade. But what I also wanted to cover, it would be, how you could chart out a ticker with, keeping in mind whatever type of trading style might be yours. So here I've been looking at Microsoft, and so I always think of it, you want to line up your time frame with the time you want to be in the trade. So here at Tesla, I'm looking at a 3-minute chart because I'm a scalper. But Microsoft, say, you have commons, whatever it is. I just kind of want to break down here how I would start longer time frame and then work my way down, which I think is always going to be the recommended. You want to get a picture for the bigger overall trend, which overall up, but since November 2021, we've been pushing down, and there's been all kinds of different impacts, Fed meetings, rate hikes, which not my specialty, but that's why I like to hang out in the Roadhouse. We've got, Hells and other members giving market commentary, but I'm looking at this chart more from a technical perspective. So if I'm zoomed out, a weekly chart, if you're, holding commons for long term, whatever it is, again, not buy seller recommendation, but this would just be kind of the things I would start to look for when charting out Microsoft. So I look for like these little trend lines, which, 3 taps make a trend. So we've got something like that going on, and then got something like this. And again, this is a weekly chart, so it's like these taps can take a while. And then I like to just look for like a couple key levels. This one looks important. It bounced there, and then it had a little bit of resistance again, weekly chart. So this would just be, and you can go from here, draw fibs or different things, which I will cover as far as how I would use fibs. But, so starting on a weekly, these are the things I start to look for just general like support and resistance. Probably have something right here. But being a scalper, I like to use, I slowly start moving down and getting shorter time frames so I can, see what levels might be important. So looking for bigger trends here on the daily, can kind of see like a head and shoulders played out, which, a lot of the market had that kind of move with into the Fed. And then caught my attention on Microsoft was options flow using Blackbox. Again, calling the flow live in the Roadhouse during the day, so reading every line that comes in. At least I am on the stock side. I don't watch the ETFs. But as we go through a crazy week with Fed messaging, the flow on some of these tickers has just been bear, just getting hammered with puts repeatedly all day. Like, it just absurd amount of puts have been coming through, with the exception of Microsoft. So this is the reason that Microsoft caught my attention. I mean, we went all the way out to the weekly chart. We're finding some support in this area. Anything can happen. But flow-wise, as Apple, Tesla, Nvidia, AMD, the only other exception, from all the bearish flow maybe would be, Google, I feel like. But otherwise, a lot of bears on a lot of different tickers. And just, this is the market conditions we're in. But so I always like to combine the technical chart analysis with what I find using Blackbox. So I'm going to break down what I would do to find levels on Microsoft for scalping. And again, not a buy or sell recommendation, but this is just how I would go through the Microsoft chart and then use Blackbox to kind of add into what I might be looking for, aside already knowing that just flow happens to be less bearish on this ticker. So, a couple different support and resistance lines on the daily that stand out. But again, I'm a scalper, short-term trade. So I really start to dive in on like a 4-hour time frame. It just works well for me. I like to use fibs. Here again, we can kind of see this head and shoulders go up. There's the head, and then here's just the break lining up with Fed stuff and gap downs. But this little downward trend line Microsoft's been riding, this could turn into some kind of compression, falling wedge over here. So just kind of looking for different patterns, but I do really like to use fibs. Fibs with this many levels, this kind of almost just helps me as a time saver, because I know that these are levels that, like an algo may be watching. So for me, it's kind of from a visual perspective. I just look for where it seems things start lining up. I also look to see if I'm pretty close to some round numbers. Algos, bots seem to like round numbers. So, I'm seeing here this seems to line up in a lot of different places. We have wicks where these fibs, the current move is to the downside. So I start up at the top, work my way down, and then, so I think these could be some key levels on Microsoft. So I start there when I'm charting. I've really been liking these parallel channels because you can get repeat taps. We're looking for like these trend lines. So there's probably something that comes in like this. And then the reason that I like using these parallel channels is that it gives you so many places to check that you've picked the right trend line, because there's so many taps. You get a little reaction here in the middle. And when I zoom in and I'm on a scalping chart, it's like I have levels up and down that I could use as potential support and resistance, and then seeing a broader trend with this channel. So this would be kind of the setup I'd be looking at, or how I would find levels on Microsoft just from a technical perspective. I like Fibs. I like watching those trend lines. And then I want to get into Blackbox because it gives us a lot of other hints as to, options flow, support, and resistance. So if we get into Blackbox here, this would be what the site would look like if you just got here, just clicked on it. So I'll go through how I set up Blackbox and what I'm using when I'm reading Flow Live in the Roadhouse. So first, for option flow filters, this is how I always read it. I turn ETFs off and I uncheck this. Everything else is just open. This is what I've learned from 7 Stars class. I mentioned that in these videos. And so because I mentioned I've been reading Flow Live in the Roadhouse, and just notably Microsoft is bullish. So it's the last 2 days, so Thursday and Friday, stand out. So I'm just going to go historical there on the flow. And then I want to go through my alert stream filters over here. This is how I like to, you can pick what works best for you, but when I'm using it, these are the settings that help me most. Orb I like Orb, but I'm watching the chart live. So these are the things that I like to watch in the alert notification. But I wanted to highlight historical mode because I get a lot of value from using Darkpool levels. And so we saw kind of how to set up Fibs there. And I wanted to just highlight, if I go back, so I'm going in historical mode here on the alert stream. So I'm going all the way back to the beginning of August through today. So we're going to get a bunch of extra data historical over there, but I'm going to target Microsoft here specifically. So as we get this update, I want to hopefully see, here we go. So here's the flow. So I'm reading this live in the Roadhouse. This is only the past 2 days worth of flow. And we got some little puts in there, but let's see, I'm trying like to zoom in a bit, make this a little bit easier to read. Bid side puts, Microsoft see this as a repeat thing, and calls on the ask, which this is an amazing flow, but in terms of a bull bear perspective, this is looking way better than anything we've seen in the past couple days. Again, not buy or sell recommendation. This is just observations. Puts coming in on the bid, calls on the ask. There's a block, but that's up to 2024. I'm a scalper, so not super worried about those, but just slightly more bullish than anything else that we saw on other tickers, just in my, from what I've been watching. But the big one that I wanted to highlight, just the value I've been getting out of Blackbox, is some of these Darkpool levels. There was a nice one, decent size, that came in on the 23rd. So what I wanted to do, because there's just a ton of information here in the alert stream, we went all the way back to August, but one thing I was noticing here is how the Darkpool levels reinforce these Fibs. And it just really stood out when looking through Microsoft. So I'm going to open this one up in Excel, and basically what I like to do when I'm using the Darkpool feed is I like to focus on the Darkpool prints that have the highest volume. So this column, I really like to use the percent of 30 day. So I'm going to throw filters on here real quick. Okay, so I've got my filters on. I've got this sorted by descending 30-day average volume. I like to keep an eye on the dollars over here, and so I just start checking out some of these that are notable. This one was just from the other day, so that's going to be an important one. This is the next, highest, at least since August. That's the historical data that was pulled. So just start highlighting these, and then I'll go in and add them to the chart. So these are the ones that start to stand out. This here, I like when they hit the same line repeat times. That's can be a good hint. So I saw these. This came in a couple times, so this combined is 5%. So just kind of starting to see, anything with multiple percent can be notable, but we're pretty far away from some of this here. Here's another one where they hit it a couple times. I had been tracking and noting some of these, but what was really interesting was looking, using these to then start to compare with some of these fib lines. Can really just give some additional hints, or also give you that reminder that you are pretty on track with your fibs. So if I come back over here to the chart and just start adding some of these in, there was one up here around 268.09. So I like to make these gold. I learned that one from Sun, and then I'll come in here. It was 268.09. Make it gold, and then I'll use this. I won't type them all out, but I'll put the date and the dollar amount. So I'm just going to kind of continue. We had the one that came in at 244.74, so I'm going to add that down here. And as I start to add these dark pools to the fibs that I already had going, we'll do the one that came in just Friday. That was the 239. So I'm starting to see, like, okay, these are, I did my fibs just kind of gauging. I, probably really would want to take some time to go and, line that up down to the penny to the top of that candle. But as I start to, kind of adjust here, it's like, okay, we've got this fib is super close right there. This one lines up. There's a couple more dark pools that we had. There was the 52.22. So this is just kind of how I'd be adding in the Blackbox data to combine it with the fibs that I'm already drawing. And you start to see how, if you go back to the alert stream, these people that have millions of dollars on these lines, it can be helpful to kind of reinforce some of these levels that we're watching over here, lining up with the fibs. And that's really what Darkpool and the fibs really break down to, is these are just lines that I'd be watching for a reaction, see if this will be support or resistance. This is looking like another good line to have there somewhere in between the fibs and these dark pools. But yeah, so I like using the fibs, combining it with the dark pool to identify these areas of potential support and resistance. And as a scalper, the 4-hour time frame, I like using the fibs on that one. Add the dark pools. Again, if we were really just, I'm not going to take the time to go through every single one, but also good to have those dollar amounts and the dates, so you get somewhat of an idea of how much money is sitting on one particular level. And then the thing I'm always looking for is also going to be the technical chart pattern setups. I'm always trying to watch those. So again, there's nothing here that would be a buy or sell recommendation, but just kind of watching Microsoft as it consolidates down. Here's another maybe little trend line. So this could turn into a falling wedge type setup, and then so we'd have some ideas of we had this significant size Darkpool that came in on Friday after the close. So I'm definitely going to be watching Microsoft for this upcoming week. And I appreciate you watching. Be reading the flow live in the Roadhouse and calling out these levels and setups.